What's up, everybody? It's episode 11 of Dreadful Talk. I'm really excited about this one. This topic makes all the sense in the world given the name of the show, and that topic is dreadlocks, dreadlocks, whatever you call them. I think it's kind of regional, what people call them, or cultural, or whatever. I tend to call mine dreads. I don't know, it just rolls off the tongue. Easier for me. I don't hardly ever say dreadlocks, and then I don't know, locks. Locks can mean anything really to me, like a locks of hair, but whatever floats your boat. I'm not a stickler for that kind of thing. Good to be back. Anybody might notice a little bit of bling on this finger. I got married since the last Dreadful Talk. That last topic of relationships and things like that was kind of a little foreshadowing. I was keeping it a secret. We eloped to Lake Tahoe, so that went really well. I'm super excited. First Dreadful Talk as a married man. Next thing, I need everybody to subscribe to Dreadful Talk on YouTube, Dreadful Talk Podcast on YouTube, and Beefy Boys Breakdown on YouTube. Go ahead. I know a lot of people are supporting the movement, and I know a lot of y'all are watching on Instagram, but I would really appreciate everybody go subscribe to Beefy Boys Breakdown and Dreadful Talk Podcast on YouTube. I'd really appreciate that. But yeah, getting straight to it. So as a guy with long dreads, as you can imagine, I get asked a lot of questions. A lot of those questions can be redundant, and that's fine. I know it's kind of interesting, and it may not be something that everybody's well informed on, and not everybody grew up around people with dreads, and I get it. It's not offensive, at least to me. That's another kind of qualifier I want to say before this episode. I'm not like the emperor of people with dreads. So if I say it doesn't bother me, and somebody else with dreads, it bothers them and they get salty, that ain't on me. I'm just talking strictly from my perspective, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm not just gonna speak for everybody that has dreads. I'm just going to kind of talk from my experience, some questions I've been asked, some experiences I've had, that type of thing. So yeah, like I said, I'm just speaking for myself. Don't just apply what I say as a blanket statement to all people with dreads, because as we know, generalizations can get us all into some trouble at times. Yeah, I get asked a lot of questions about my dreads, and for those people out there that don't ask people with dreads questions, but they still have those questions, God bless you. God bless you, so that's another reason. So those people that don't feel comfortable asking the person, I'm going to try to answer those questions for you, and maybe just educate some people, maybe stop somebody from bugging somebody with dreads. But like I said, it doesn't really bother me. Sometimes it's weird whenever, old white ladies ask if they can touch your dreads or whatever. But hey, I don't get offended or anything, It's just, like I said, certain people weren't exposed to certain things, and I mean, hell, they are cool. That's why I got them. So, also, shout out to Mon Ami Jewelry on Instagram. She gave me this beautiful wedding gift, along with many other things. But check out her jewelry if you like natural stone jewelry. It's great stuff. I wear it. I like it. It can get spiritual if you're into that type of thing, or if you're not into type of that thing, it just looks good, man. It looks chill. But yeah, appreciate everybody tuning in. First question I get asked is, how long have I had my dreadlocks? How long, because mine are really long compared to, most people's. And so I started my dreads in 2010. It was spring break of my sophomore year of high school. I got my dreads and I got my ears pierced, and I thought I came back fly, but actually, to be completely honest, for the first, pretty much 9 months to a year, my dreads looked like shit. I thought I had maybe potentially made a mistake, or, I really didn't fully know what I was doing, really, and kind of just give you a little bit more of a backstory on it. So my hair was, long and curly, on some Anderson Varejao, Corbin Blue, curly mixed dude hair, essentially, you know what I'm saying? And And it was long. It was long, but it was just getting so big. And like the Oklahoma humidity would just make it get real big instead of like falling. And I kind of wanted longer hair instead of just like poofier hair. But it looked good though. It looked good though. Everybody that went to school with me back in Norman, Oklahoma probably remembers the old curl days. But yeah, I actually originally wanted dreads in 7th grade because I wanted that shit for football. I was a football player back in the day, and like a lot of my favorite football players had them, but I'll get to that. But I think I started wanting dreads in like 7th grade, but my mom was like, that's like a permanent decision, even though it's really not. And like she was like, let's do these braids to see if you'll like it. She wanted to kind of try to simulate it, I guess. But for anybody, and I've heard of other people doing that too, and it's just not a one-to-one comparison. Like if you're somebody out there that's like contemplating like, oh, I'm thinking about getting dreads, but I'm going to get these braids to see if I like the way it looks. Like, just don't do it. Either get the dreads or don't. But the braids is going to not like simulate it properly. Because I did not like those braids. And it like prevented me from starting dreads for like, 3 more years whenever I should have just started them then. Also, some more backstory. My mom does hair. She still does hair in Norman, Oklahoma. Vinny Rossetti. She can do all types of hair, white, black, everything in between, old, young, men, women. So go holler at her if you need your hair done. She's legit. Like I said, she's the one that started my dreads. She doesn't like doing dreads though. I'll be real; they're kind of a pain in the ass for her, but she's really good at it. But yeah, so I officially started my dreads. My mom started them, so my mom does hair professionally, so I had that advantage. You know what I mean? So I didn't go to the hair salon, and I'm kind of glad I didn't because like I said, I had like Corbin Bleu, Anderson Varejao, like curly hair, and so like. And I was in Norman, Oklahoma. So, like, in Norman, Oklahoma, you pretty much, like, the hair salons, like, and it looks like that in a lot of places. They're kind of segregated. You either go to a white shop or a black shop, Now, out here in the Bay, there's more options, more versatile options. But out there, it's still pretty much A or B. And I'm being a mixed guy, my hair is essentially right in the middle. So, like, I can't use methods that essentially white people use, and if I try to treat my hair like straight black people hair, it's not going to lock up properly either. So I pretty much knew that because like the place, like the black little shop in town that like a lot of my friends would like get their dreads done at, like they just twist it with some gel, essentially like real tight, like just little baby twists. We've all seen people with them. I think Anthony Davis was playing with them last night. James Harden has them right now. Those little baby twists, that's a lot of people don't even know. That's like the very, very beginning stages of dreads. That's like a little seedling of a plant. Like that's like, they're not locked yet, but that's how a lot of people start their dreads. That's not how I started mine. And that's what I'm saying. If I would have went to a traditional like all black salon, like at least the one in Norman, Oklahoma, then they would have tried to twist my hair with the gel or the beeswax or whatever, and that shit wouldn't have worked on my hair. But yeah, so a lot of people don't even know like what Anthony Davis and James Harden have right now, those little bitty little twisties. That's like how a lot of people with thick hair actually start their dreads if their hair's not as long. So yeah, I had my dreads for 10 years now. Yeah, it's 2020. Got them in March of 2010. So yeah, I passed my 10-year anniversary. I guess I could say this is 10 years of growth, but I've had some breakage and some things like that. So there's very few survivors that like are truly as long as they could be. But I think most people that have natural dreads will have a similar experience. At 10 years, it's like, if this was a piece of rope, imagine having a piece of rope for 10 years that didn't wither a little bit or there's going to eventually be a little weak spot or something. So 10 years in, they're healthy, they're comfortable as ever. I've hit my 10-year mark. Definitely a veteran in the dread game, you know what I mean? So how long are they? Well, you can see right here, but like if I'm like going, if I like stood up and turn around, all that, I'm not going to do that. But if I stood up and turn around, Like my longest one is like right at butthole length. Like it hangs like right butthole length. Like that's how long my longest one is. But I said a lot of them that are shorter than that. It's crazy. I had some that broke down this small back when I was playing football in college or something, and now they're long again. So yeah, like I said, like my very, very longest ones are like definitely down to like my mid butt, but yeah, like I mean that's why most of the time I have them tied up. I'll probably tie them back up, especially because like San Jose's like in a heat wave right now. It's insane over here. And I got my fan off because I fuck with y'all and it makes the sound quality sound like shit. Shout out to anybody who put up with that on past Dreadful Talk episodes. That's also why this episode's being recorded live a little bit earlier than I typically do, because I was trying to get out of this room before it gets too damn hot. So, another frequently asked question that I always get, and I'll be real. Now, this question kind of does offend me. Not really offend me, like, but I give people shit when they ask me it because it's just like, come on now, don't play me like that. Like, I get asked all the time if it's my real hair. It's very, very common for people to use extensions in their dreads. For one or two reasons. Like, a lot of people don't want short dreads and they're impatient, so they want to add length. That's like the obvious, like what most people use extensions for. But what also a lot of times happens, especially people with my complexion or white people or people that pretty much just aren't full black, you need a lot of thickness. You need a lot of hair to get good dreadlocks. And a lot of people just don't have thick enough hair, so they won't use the extensions to make them longer. They'll just use the extensions to make them like to kind of fill it in. But to me, that's unsustainable because, like I said, when you've had dreads as long as I have, 10 years, then what happens to the new growth that comes in? You just keep adding in extensions. Like, I don't know. And in my opinion, if your hair isn't thick enough to get dreads without extensions, I wouldn't get them. Now, do you? You know what I'm saying? It's your life. Like, but it's definitely going to be a more short-term thing. Like, don't expect to have dreadlocks for 10, 15 years if you're using extensions. Like, eventually, you know, that's going to come home to roost. And, like, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there that's kept it up. But, like, it's just not really sustainable in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, the extensions for length at first, I mean, I'm still not the biggest fan of, but it makes more sense to me. But if you need extensions for thickness, because the hair people will talk you into it, because they're getting paid bank for that. And it's going to take so many hours, and they're going to make so much money off you. They're business people, business women, businessmen, too. So it's like, they're not going to tell you don't do it. But take it from me, like, it's not going to be, like, sustainable. Like, some people... I'm a firm believer, and I'll get into, like, the racial part of this, but just at face value, like, I'm a firm believer that, like, certain people's hair can have dreads and certain people's hair can't. And that's part of what makes dreads so cool, in my opinion, is that it's not a haircut. Like, it's not just something that you can just, like, get. And it's not something that everybody can get. In my opinion, I mean, there's people that disagree. Like I said, I'm not necessarily trying to, like, have a debate club over it or anything, but that's just my personal beliefs. I think if you have to kind of try to force it too much, you know, it may just not be meant for you, as far as like the thickness extensions and all that. But yeah, that question is, you know, is my hair? Yes, this is all my hair. Not a single extension, not a single any fucking thing. All my hair. Oh, another thing, so like, yeah, I've had my dreads since 2010. But my hair was already long and curly when I got my dreads. So, like, I haven't had a haircut since my back-to-school haircut before 6th grade at Alcott Middle School. And that's when I first moved to Norman. So, like, right before everybody met me, that was the last time I, like, actually got, like, a barber, like a Clippers haircut, like a short haircut. I trimmed up my curls, my dead ends and shit over them years I was growing it out. But I haven't really had like a haircut, like, I haven't had a haircut since 2005. That's been 15 years. I never liked haircuts. And like I said, so my mom did hair for a living. So essentially, she was always trying to give me haircuts. And like, I hated how it tickled. I hated how it itched. I usually didn't like how my shit looked afterwards. And like, when you have curly hair, people with curly hair know that getting haircuts suck. Because like, if you have curly hair and you cut off a half an inch, that curl gonna spring up 3 fucking inches, and it's gonna look like they cut off 4 inches from your shit. Everybody with curly hair knows that struggle. If you got straight hair, you don't know that struggle. They cut off a half inch, they cut off a half inch. If you have curly hair, you cut off a 1/4 inch, that shit gonna spring up 2 inches. Like, it's just, everything's exaggerated. And so I just really just didn't like haircuts. But you know, when you're real little, it's not up to you. But you know, I got to be like 11, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna try to grow my shit out, and I literally just never stopped. Like, I always thought, like, you know, people would always ask me, when are you gonna get a haircut? Like, I don't know. Here I am, 15 years later, cocksuckers still haven't cut my shit. Like, everybody would always ask me that. Football coaches, uncles, just male figures. You gotta think, you in Oklahoma, you know what I mean? It's a lot of old school people. And my hair was just curly and crazy and wild. And like, when are you gonna cut that? Or is it not gonna be hot for football? And then honestly, I'll be real, that was like the redneck side. And then the black community, because a lot of my friends were black, and I was in the black community a lot. Like, the black community, I was like, ain't you gonna braid that? Ain't you gonna twist that? Ain't you gonna dread that? And I'd always just be like, I don't know, man. Like, why is everybody so concerned about my hair? That's the main reason I'm doing this podcast right now, is because, like, if you don't understand how much attention other, like, grown people and just people really, like, care about my hair, like, and it's just weird to me, like strangers stop me, ask me, like, I had people give me shit my whole life, family members, coaches, teachers, just people, just everybody seemed to have an opinion and wanted to have some input and just say what was right, what was wrong, what I should do, what I shouldn't do. And I just wanted to just take a second to say, 15 years later, grown-ass Dom, married Dom, still got these motherfucking dreads, still ain't cut my shit, ain't hindered me in life at all. Everybody said, you know what I'm saying, it would affect this, it would affect that. You know, it hasn't affected shit. I think that, like, people, you know, it'll affect it if you let it affect it, or if you use it as an excuse, or, you know. It hasn't kept me out of any rooms. I've been in the hoodest of hood rooms, and I've been in rooms with millionaires. Not once did me having my dreads, like, affect that. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be bigger than that. You gotta wear your dreads. You can't let your dreads wear you. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's what I try to accomplish. But, oh man. Yeah, man, see, the people that know me from day one, you know, they remember all the different stages. I've done had, and it just, I stuck at it. So that's another thing about dreads. Like, I've tell people this, because ask somebody with dreads, the minute anybody gets a harebrained idea that they might want to get dreads, it's usually a white person. They hit me up and they're like, oh, like, what should I do to get dreads? Should I get dreads? Like, I should just be like a judge. Like, I have a gavel, like, no dreads for you, bang. But I swear, I mean, if I had $1 for every time somebody hit me up about that shit, but no, it doesn't bother me. I just think it's funny. Like, it's not like I'm mad at those people. Like, I'm not shitting on those people. It's just funny to me. Like, I never did that really. Like, I never, like, consulted people with dreads before I got my dreads. Like, and if I did, it was because they were the people I was with every day anyway. You know what I'm saying? I didn't hit up somebody that I don't even really talk to just because they have dreads to ask them questions about dreads. Like, that's what's so funny to me. Like, that's what I'm kind of why I'm doing this. Like, I don't know. I just want to. I've been asked a lot of questions over the years, and I just figured I could just address it, you know, and maybe educate, maybe just, I mean, who knows? Who knows what comes out of these dreadful talks, man? But I sure enjoy doing them, and I really appreciate everybody that listens. I really do. So, yeah, these are all my hair, and, like, there's different methods to doing dreads, and that's honestly what makes dreads so cool. And, like, I think that I truly mean this. Everybody's dreads is like a fingerprint. Like, essentially, no two people's dreads are the same. And like, I know to some people that may seem like mind-boggling, but like, yeah, no, like, I mean, I swear, like, it has nothing to do really with even race. Like, you could have two dark-skinned dudes, and if you look at their dreads close, they're still a little bit different, just whether it be texture, thickness, ruggedness. Just, I mean, there's a color. I mean, there's a million factors, length. And then same thing with not even just like two mixed dudes, two white dudes. Everybody's dreads really are unique. Like, I really believe that. And that's part is everybody's hair texture is different. Everybody's process that they started them with and how regularly they maintained them and things like that. Those all come into play with like the end result and how they look when they're mature. These are called mature dreadlocks. You see a lot of people, like I was talking about, Anthony Davis, James Harden. Those are little starters. And then, a lot of, dudes at the short, medium, like Chief Keef, Sway Lee length dreads, you know what I mean? And those are like, that's whenever you're going from starter to mature, like that process. Like, from between your ears and your shoulders. Like, by the time they hit in your shoulders, like, you got you some mature dreads. And then, and then you got the veterans in the game that, like me, you know what I'm saying? Like 2 Chainz, them real long. Snoop Dogg's dreads is getting real long. Lil Wayne's dreads, I think they got a life of their own, but we all remember prime Weezy dreads. Let's not necessarily comment on the situation that's going on right now with Weezy's dreads, but he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT, man. He can do whatever the fuck he wants with his dreads, man. Them some GOAT dreads. Them dreads if them dreads could talk, as they say. Man, yeah. If I could have Lil Wayne's dreads as a guest on the podcast, that would be lit. It's like one dread. I bet it like costs more the more dreads you get on there. But yeah, so the method I used on my dreads, and it's honestly a method that I recommend to a lot of people, and I'll tell you what people I recommend it to. I use like a crochet needle method, and I learned this method, man. Shout out to the homie Brandon Martinez, man. Badass dirt bike rider out in Oklahoma, badass drummer out in Oklahoma, really talented dude, and that's the homie. But I actually learned that shit from him, because like I said, so like the first 9 months of my dreads, I was like struggling. Like me and my mom had just like looked up some YouTube videos, and like I had some twisty braids that I'd like back combed and like was making nappy, and like I was just like I don't know, like we were just kind of grasping at straws, trying different methods off YouTube, and I mean it was slowly but surely locking up, but it was not pretty, it was not clean, it was not neat, it was not fresh, it was not cool looking, but they were locking up. But I mean, it was them first 6 months, man. I looked rough. Like a lot of people, I mean, them first 6 months, if you start in dreads, I mean, don't be expecting to win in any beauty contest. You know what I'm saying? For most people, but so my shit was like looking rough, and then my homie Brandon, who he's essentially a white dude, but he has like really curly hair, like essentially damn near curlier than mine, or as curly as mine, or maybe curlier. Like his hair is really curly, and he showed up one day, and he was the homie. We would always smoke, and you know what I'm saying, before school and at lunch and shit, man. I love that fool. But he showed up with like some perfect ass dreads one day, like perfect, like really perfect. And I was like, what in the fuck kind of witchcraft is this? I've been over here running around, looking like who done it and why for the past 9 months. And my dog pull up on me with some fucking dope ass dreads. And like, I was just shocked and like kind of jealous. I'll be real. And I was just like, show me your ways. Like, what's going on here? And then he showed me like these crochet needles, and he pulled up this other, how I didn't come across this YouTube video, because that's how he learned it. But be careful on which YouTube video you pick, definitely. But yeah, the crochet needle method is so fire, especially for starting your dreads. Now, there are better ways to keep up your root maintenance once they're locked. But for anybody out there that doesn't have like just super, super thick, I mean, I guess the word nappy is controversial, but when you're talking about dreads, like the word nappy is actually like relevant. Like you know what I'm saying? Unless you have thick nappy hair, Like for real. Like if you have any type of wave or slickness or curl to your hair, I highly recommend the crochet needle method as opposed to just, essentially the hood, like gel twist and pin and sit under the dryer method. Because if your hair's slick, if your hair's curly, if your hair's wavy, that shit's gonna come out. You're gonna have to get it done so often. It's not the move. Trust me. Now the downside is to do the crochet needle method. Your hair has to be like at least like probably 6 to 7 inches long. Like whenever it's pulled straight. And then whenever you do the crochet needle method, that 6 to 7 inches will shrink down to like little 3 inches. So like that's why a lot of people aren't patient enough to wait for the crochet needle method, is because you gotta wait for your hair to get a decent length before you can even start it, as opposed to the gel twist method. The gel twist method, these little salons, you can have an afro, this big, and they'll try to give you some dreads. I've seen it smaller than that. I've seen dudes with like webby fades go get twisted up, and it's just not sustainable. Like if you really are serious about wanting dreads, now if you just want you some little twisties and you want something to do like this when you know what I'm saying, spit game to a shorty on FaceTime, then good on you. Because I feel like that's what motherfuckers do. They get twisties, they do this shit on Instagram Live or whatever the fuck, and then, they never end up getting dreads. You fall asleep without your do-rag one fucking night, and then you back to a webby fade. So, like, I really feel like motherfuckers should just let their hair grow out, like to like a big fro, You can braid it along the way if you don't want to rock the Mac Dre, but you know what? I love afros, but just let your shit get long, man. Hardly anybody with long dreads started them when they was this small, or if they did, it took them like 3 or 4 attempts. Like just let your shit grow out, rock a fro, braid it, rock your curls like I did. I had big curly hair. People called me Sideshow Bob. Who gives a fuck? And that's my biggest recommendation for those out there wanting to start dreads. But yeah, the crochet needle method, and you can YouTube it. If your hair lady really knows her shit, she probably has heard of it. Hopefully, thank God mine has. But not a lot. Trust me, I went to a lot of salons, and you bring up the crochet needle method, and they're just gonna look at you crazy. Like if you go to, and especially like I said, it was hard being a mixed dude. I moved out to San Jose. There was this white lady I met, and like her card said dread specialist, and I was like, dope, because I'd been in the Bay for like 3 or 4 months. Nobody touched my hair. I was looking crazy, and then I went, and like this bitch didn't do anything. She like put a bunch of gel in my shit, and just it literally came out the next day. She didn't do any fucking thing at all. It was so ass. Like that was like my first experience. Never hit her back up. I was like, hell no. And then I met this other lady who, she didn't know the crochet needle method, but she was down to learn it, and we kind of like worked on it together. But so it's not everybody knows about this method, but it is something you can learn yourself. It does help if you have a girlfriend or somebody that could sit behind you and do it, or partner, whatever. But I have known people that have done them themselves. Like I said, my boy Brandon Martinez, the one that put me onto that method, he did all of his himself, which essentially has made it more impressive to me, because I think that shit would suck. But I know it can be done because I've seen him do it. But yeah, the crochet needle method, grow your hair out long, and then they're little bitty crochet needles. Don't get no big shit you would make a fucking quilt with. They're little bitty ones, and they have handles. They're legit, but it'll make it lock up quick, keep it neat. Like I said, it sucks down at the root though, so I'll get to a better method for once your roots are locked up. But yeah, and then also for you white people out there that are putting fucking mayonnaise and whatever, egg yolks and egg whites and shit in your dreads, just stop. Just do yourself a favor and stop, because, sorry, it's hot as shit in here. But I'm a grinder. But yeah, just it pretty much like if you, it kind of goes back to what I was saying about the people that have to add extensions for thickness. Like it probably just ain't meant to be. Like that probably just ain't in your car. It's like probably just going another direction. I just say, like, if you gotta put mayonnaise and egg whites and clay or whatever the fuck these people are putting in their hair, if you gotta do that shit to have dreadlocks, like, it ain't meant for you to have dreads. Like, it just ain't. Like, it's cool. Like, you don't have to have dreads. Like, you don't, whatever reason is making you think you, like, have to have them, you don't. So just, like, don't force that shit. Really don't. Like, if you gotta do all that shit, like if you gotta put nasty ass shit that you just common sense tells you shouldn't be putting in your hair, and I've seen it all. I've seen people do crazy shit trying to get dreads, and yeah, it's typically white people. It just don't. It's a bad idea. Once again, it's not sustainable if you actually like, and like you're doing all that because you really want dreads, but it's not gonna really give you dreads. You'll get some weird, funky ass little things, spiky, weird, ugly things for maybe a month or two or whatever. But I've never seen people try that shit and then like 4 years later have like happy, healthy dreads. Like, no. It's like usually some kids that are probably getting into some new drugs and hanging out with some new kids and they're trying to fucking be cool or whatever. But if you gotta fucking put nasty shit in your hair to get dreads, you should not get dreads. I'm just gonna put it that way. Once again, do you, but watch me. It's not gonna work out well. You heard it here first. So, as this guy that's up here sitting telling everybody who should and should not have dreads, like, which I'm really not doing. I'm just trying to save people from the headaches, like quite literally. And just like, essentially making fools out of themselves and just making some rookie mistakes. That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm not really trying to dictate who should and who shouldn't, but really our own hair kind of dictates who should and who shouldn't. And that's kind of my bigger point I'm trying to make. But what made me want my dreads? That's a question I get asked a lot. And that's actually a question I like getting asked. As opposed to, how long are they? How long have I had them? Blah, fucking blah. That's what made me want dreads, because that's actually kind of a personal question. You're not just like an object. But, so I always listened to reggae with my mom. I was super lucky to be born to a super cool mom. Shout out Vinny. Like I said, she does hair in Norman, Oklahoma. Vinny Rossetti, hit her up. Love you, mama. But, she was just out here. She just flew back. She came out for the wedding, so that was super dope. But she's super dope, and like, so yeah, like driving to school and like pre-K and like this kindergarten, like we would be listening to Bob Marley in the car, and then like probably shortly thereafter, first, second grade, you would like take me up to Brooktown Reggae Fest with her. That's probably the first time I ever saw dreads with my own eyes, because I would see the Bob Marley album covers, and my mom would explain to me that like that's dreads, and like that's how people from where he's from, it's a hairstyle, and that was and so Bob Marley's dreads were the first dreads I ever laid eyes on as a child, probably as most people I would think, or that's a lot of people's introduction to dreads, and then like I said, and then my mom would like take me like in elementary school, like up with her to like Reggae Fest in Oklahoma City, this little part of Oklahoma City called Bricktown, like downtown. They have like actually a pretty decent Reggae Fest, man. Like I'm sure maybe people who live in Cali or other states maybe rolling their eyes at Oklahoma City Reggae Fest, but no, man, I'll stand by that. That shit's pretty fucking dope. Like I look forward to that shit every year. I shout out OKC Bricktown Reggae Fest. I hope that shit, I'm sure it didn't go down this year because of Corona, but I hope that shit's still going on. But yeah, that's like, so that was like my next, like, taking a step further into that world of just reggae and dreads and seeing them actually in person for the first time. And I think I remember like, I touched this guy's really long dreads. I was like 6 and my mom was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And he was like, "No, it's fine." And like, he let me like touch it and shit. So like, I remember thinking, like people are like, "Oh, you don't really remember that." No, like I do. Like I remember that. I remember thinking it was so fucking cool, and like these guys had the same hair as Bob Marley. Like it was like pre-K or kindergarten or whatever, And like everybody, so it was like, and I was born in 94. So it was like 99, 2000, 98, like that, like prime, like boy band, Britney Spears era. And like, so like, it was like the first day of school, and like every kid had to like go around the circle and say like the favorite song from the summer or whatever the shit, first day of school type of shit people do. And it, like I said, it was somewhere between 98 and 2000. So everybody's like Britney Spears, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. And then I was like Bob Marley. And then like the whole, like, if it was a movie, like the record would have scratched, like, skirt. And everybody like looked at me, like all the other kids were like, what? And then I got like mad at the whole class, like, what? You guys haven't heard of Bob Marley? He's a legend. And the reason why, so that's actually not my memory, but my mom proceeded to do my pre-K teacher's hair for like 20 years after that. So then she would tell that story to my mom whenever she would like get her hair done. So like, yeah, like I've always just been about like the Bob Marley to reggae. I still listen to a lot of reggae to this day. It just takes my mind somewhere, my mood somewhere that other music can't. Especially when I'm like out in nature. I listen to a bunch of reggae up in Tahoe. But so that was the next progression. But then the next progression is kind of different. And around like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I moved to Norman, and I made some new friends, and they introduced me to hip hop, and that was like prime mixtape Wayne era, like prime Lil Wayne, like 06, 07, 08 is just like prime. That was like my formative years. Like I was like 11, 12, 13, and it was like prime mixtape Wayne, like Drought 3, Drought is over 4, like all that shit. Carter 3, I think, came that last summer. So it was just like Lil Wayne was so influential on me, like be it for better or for worse, man. I love Lil Wayne, and I thought so. Like obviously, like Lil Wayne, like rapper dreads were like completely different than like reggae Rasta dreads, but like it kind of just like reignited that spark. Like, oh, it can be this too. Like it doesn't have to be that. Dreads can be. There's different types of dreads essentially, and I remember the fucking Duffel Bag Boy video when like Wayne had on like the white fitted cap to the back, and he just had like a normal rubber band holding his dreads and like a fat dread ponytail. I thought that was the coolest fucking thing that like I had ever seen in my fucking life. Like I thought that shit was so fucking cool, man. Like so cool. And I think that's whenever I asked my mom if I could get dreads the first time, and she made me get them funky ass braids, which it's hilarious. I got roasted for them braids, but now, essentially looking back at it, they were like some Travis Scott braids. I was just in fucking 7th grade, 10 years too late. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, it's funny how fashion goes in cycles. Like I got lit up by the crew for them braids, and now I feel like every fucking middle schooler has them same braids, but whatever. But yeah, them braids, wasn't the move at the time. So yeah, Lil Wayne, like that, like 07 era Lil Wayne, like how could you not think that shit was the coolest shit ever, man? Like that shit was so damn cool. And then like around that same time, so like anybody that doesn't know, like Oklahoma, everybody knows about Texas high school football, and like, well, Oklahoma is not as big as Texas, so there's not as many big time players and all that, but they essentially take it just as seriously. Like in Oklahoma, like high school football, shit like that is like even little league, middle school football is a big fucking deal. People take that shit seriously. And so like I was Mr. like football player in McGee, and a lot of my favorite football players were getting dreads. Like, them DBs in Green Bay was really the first ones I remember. Like, I can't believe, like Mike McKenzie, and it was Al Harris. Was Al Harris the other one, or am I tripping? Those Green Bay DBs, they all had, they were like some of the first football players I remember seeing with dreads. And then that one year, Hawaii was really good and made it to like a BCS bowl. All their wide receivers had like the dreads with like the bleach tips and the shells and shit. That shit was like all kind of, I feel like, around a similar era, and like dreads just kind of started like taking over like the football like wave. Like you just kind of, and now it's nothing. Like I'm sure kids that grow up nowadays, just think, oh yeah, football players have dreads, duh. But like there was like a time where like football players went from not having dreads to having dreads, and there was like a transition. And like that was kind of right during that like Lil Wayne era too. So like I just thought that shit was so cool. Like my favorite rappers, my favorite athletes, my favorite, just going back to my childhood, how I was like raised on Bob Marley. Like all that shit just like formed together to just make me think dreads was cool, man. And I think a lot of people think dreads is cool. And like I just I mean, like I said, when we're young, you know, we look up to our idols and our athletes and our rappers so much. And I mean, who isn't influeed by that type of stuff? So yeah, I mean, there's no shame in admitting it. Shout out to Bob Marley. Shout out to Lil Wayne. And shout out to them early Hawaii football teams and them early Green Bay DBs. Man, it was just so dope, so different at the time. And because football always tried to have this like Captain America image, you know what I'm saying? That you know, Bart Starr, Dick Buckus, square jaw type of shit, you know. But the dreadlocks just looked so badass, and it was so different. And then like a lot of dudes from like Miami started getting them, Devin Hester. That shit was just a wave. And it's cool because I'm so glad it wasn't a fad. It wasn't a fad. How many fads have we seen come and go? But like football players still have dreads. And that started like 15 years ago or something. And then also there was like the kind of just the practical factor of I wanted long hair, not big hair. And I thought eventually if I just kept growing my hair, it would start to fall. But it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So like I wanted my hair to actually fall. And I knew dreads would help me accomplish that. Alright, some water, y'all. It is hot. Another question I get asked is, you know, do I get offended when white people have dreads? I actually get asked that question. Offended's not the right word. Like I said, and there's a couple reasons why I'm going to go down. Like I said, I do think it's stupid when white people put like mayonnaise and egg whites and shit in their hair in some weak attempt to get dreads. Yes, I think that shit is whack. Does it offend me? No, I recommend against it for their sake. And like I said, I don't really think people should be getting like thickness extensions. But you know, if you want to rip yourself off and spend a bunch of money, go ahead. But offend, no. But I know there are certain people that it does offend. Like I don't really think it's cultural appropriation. Like I said, especially like my boy Brandon Martinez his hair was just as curly as me. So like, and his dreads were dope, and it like matched his personality. Like I don't know, like that shit was hella dope. But like, I mean, so like, do I think it's for everybody? No. But does it offend me when white people, you know, get dreads? Also, no. And like a lot of white people with dreads are cool ass white people. You know what I'm saying? Like they're super not racist. You know, usually down to smoke some weed and shit. So it's like, you know, I really don't have that big of a problem with it. I think that it, like, certain people can potentially go about it maybe in a problematic way. I think that's probably fair to say. But just intrinsically, do I have a problem with, like, every white person that has dreads? No. I think it's, like most things in life, it's probably more of a case-by-case basis. But at the same time, you know, I think I've met a lot of really cool white people with dreads and you know, in general, painting with a broad brush, no, I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, my take I want people to come away from this with is just let your hair dictate that. If you have thin, stick straight, blonde hair that falls like flat on your scalp and hangs straight down, like I want to recommend it. I really want it. But hey, you know, you only live once, and if you want to see how ugly that shit looks, then go knock yourself out. Go fucking hit yourself in the head with the ugly stick, if that's what you so feel like doing. Another thing, and this was especially when I was younger, and that's what I think is so funny doing this here 10 years later. How long are you going to keep those things? Especially because, like, by the time I got to college and I was playing football at OBU, they were getting really, really long. Like, damn near too long to be playing football with. So I would always just get asked that question. How long are you going to let them get? How long are you going to let them get? How long are you going to keep them? Well, it's 2020, cocksuckers, and they're still here. Still here. I'll say this, and it's not that I've never really thought about it or that I don't take the question seriously. Just when I was young, I didn't really think that far into my future, quite frankly. I kind of took it as it went. I liked them, so I kept them. But since I just recently got married, I know a lot of women cut their hair shorter whenever they're like have babies, so like it doesn't get in the baby shit and shit like that. So like I bet the first time I get a dread full of baby shit, they're gonna definitely get trimmed. I predict that's how it goes down. We'll see what the future has in store, but I predict big dread full of baby shit, and then me going to the cabinet and grabbing some scissors and giving myself a little makeover. I imagine that's how it's gonna go down. So stay tuned for that. Another thing is, check this out. I got this fucking widow's peak right here. And I'm really curious what kind of short haircut I can get with the widow's peak that wouldn't make me look like I'm trying to suck on your neck. I ain't trying to be out here looking like, Transylvania Tevin. Just fucking, I don't know, man. You can't, the widow's peak with the short hair, am I going to slick my shit back like fucking Uncut Gems? What the fuck you want me to do with that? So, either the baby shit or the hairline is what's going to bring an end to the empire. It's going to crumble the dynasty. I think that's one of the two things it's going to be. I don't think it's just going to be me getting tired of it, to be honest. I think if I was going to get tired of it, I would have got tired of it a long time ago. So how long do I plan on keeping them? Until I start to go bald. I don't want to be having the Stevie Wonders. Or whenever I get a big dread full of baby shit. That's my prediction. Another thing, like I said, the reason why I want to do this episode is because, I feel like how can you have dreads, have a podcast called Dreadful Talk, and then, not talk about dreads ever. So I feel like it was just kind of like a requisite thing I should do. But, how did I get that name of the podcast, Dreadful Talk? I actually originally wanted it to be Dreadful Thoughts. I thought Dreadful Thoughts was going to be a cool name for a podcast. But it's cool. In retrospect, when I look back on it, I don't like Dreadful Thoughts as much. I like Dreadful Talk better. So it's crazy how things work out like that. But I wanted it, like I said, I wanted it to be Dreadful Thoughts, and that just came to me just boom, and I had to write it down. That's how I am with my ideas. I'll get good ass ideas and I have to write them down immediately, or else that shit is gone. And so I wanted it to be Dreadful Thoughts, and then I looked it up, and Dreadful Thoughts is like some Shakespeare podcast or some shit. So I just let them keep that shit, and it's Dreadful Talk now, and I love it. Like I said, Dreadful Talk sounds weird in retrospect. I'm super happy with Dreadful Talk. 11 episodes deep. Shout out everybody, for just supporting along the way. Go subscribe on YouTube. But let me see. There's another one that I get asked a lot. Like, do my dreads symbolize anything? Like, and that can mean a lot of things. Some people's dreads are religious symbols, or I guess some people's dreads can be really symbolic. And I had to think about that long and hard. I really did, because I'll be real. My gut reaction was like, no, my dreads aren't symbolic. Like, it's just my hair. What the fuck? What do you mean symbolic? It ain't that deep. But then I started thinking about it. I guess this is how I am looking at it like it does symbolize something whether I want it to or not. That's how I'm going to say this. And part of, like, the old me would have been like, oh, stereotypes, but, you know, certain, like, I don't know, certain things give off indicators, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Like, so, like, what do my dreads symbolize? Well, I smoke a lot of weed. That's a thing that's commonly associated with dreads and dreadlock culture. Let's not shy away from that. Let's not, like, you know, I have dreads down to my ass, so people fucking assume I smoke weed. And guess what? They're right. So, you know, is that always such a fucking bad thing? Or am I just maybe a walking stereotype? Who fucking knows? But, and then another thing they symbolize kind of whether I intend it to or not. And maybe I do intend it to. That's pretty deep to think about whether I intend it to or not. But it symbolizes my blackness. It does. Whether I want it to or not. And like I said, maybe I do want it to, being a light-skinned brother like myself. Like, that gets deep. That gets really introspective. I haven't put that much thought into it. I think that kind of evolved. Like it definitely, that's not why I did it when I first got him. Like I said, when I first got him, it's because I wanted to look cool out of my football helmet, and I liked Lil Wayne and Bob Marley. So that's not why I got him, but maybe that's why I've kept him. Like, maybe as I've gotten older, that meaning's definitely changed and took on a different life of its own. So yeah, no, that's very interesting to think about. You know, I do get asked that question, and I've told a lot of people no, that they don't symbolize anything. But yeah, that gets pretty deep to think about. One thing I did do one time, though, funny little story. So when I first got moved to California, like first, I needed a job. Like, I was just applying at pretty much anywhere, like Costco. I was applying just random ass fucking places, and you know, I figured since I was an athlete and I had a background selling shoes, I would apply at this sporting goods store called Big Five, and it's like a sporting goods store, like a smaller version of Academy for those out there in Oklahoma or the Midwest. It's like a small sporting goods store, and like I walked in there, you know, I told him, yeah, just, you know, quit, former college football player, former shoe salesman, like I know my shit, like hire me. He did hired me on the spot. And then I literally walked, and there was like a Walmart next door. I walked next door to Walmart because I was struggling. I was on food stamps. Like, I needed this job. And I spent like some of my last money on a 6-pack of beer. And I was like, I'm going to fucking celebrate my new job. I'm like getting on my feet and whatnot. Because I have a different Dreadful Talk that tells my origin story of how I got to Cali. So for those that like, that'll kind of fill in some gaps. I don't feel like getting into that right now. But, But yeah, I was struggling. I needed this job. You know, I hadn't had a job since I moved to San Jose, and then so I was spending some of my last money on a 6-pack, and I'm like walking out of Walmart with my 6-pack, like happy as fuck, and I get a call, and they're like, oh, so got some news for you. You know, good news is you're hired, but bad news is you have to cut those dreads. You know, you're willing to do that, right? And I was just like, no, like not at all, like not even a little bit. So like even down on my last dollar with a job. But the thing is, like, I still had enough. I wasn't that desperate to just like think that Big Five was the end all be all. I was like, fuck that job. But then a different store, like a different location of the same like chain, hit me up and was like, we really need employees. We really, like, we saw your application down at that San Jose store. I think we can work something out. And so he's like, look, what we're going to do is we're going to write down that this is for religious purposes. He was like, I scanned like the company code, and there's like a religious hair exemption that we can make work. And so I fucking, and the fact that these cocksuckers made me do all this is like, I don't know if it's racist or just stupid or what, but like I had to like meet with the district manager and explain to her how my dreadlocks were like of religious significance. And mind you, I just needed a job. Like my dreadlocks aren't religious. I'm not a religious person. So I literally like Googled, these dumb fucks. I literally Googled Religious meanings for dreadlocks. Read that shit verbatim, like didn't change it at all. And these motherfuckers hired me. So it just proves that, like, and then they promoted me too. So it just goes to show, has nothing to fucking do with your ability to do the job at all. Is it racist? Is it antiquated? Who fucking knows? But get your shit together. Anybody out there that's thinking about not hiring somebody because they have a dreadlocks as a hairstyle, or any other black hairstyle for that matter, go fucking suck a dick. You think your fucking bald cul-de-sac is best? Your ugly ass comb over, you think that's more professional than dreadlocks or braids or afros? Go fuck yourself. You're fucking tripping. For real. That's a way of discrimination that people want to talk about systemic racism. How about when every hairstyle that you're born with allows you to do is considered unprofessional and can keep you from getting a job? Whenever, in order to get that same job, you either have to heat straighten or chemically straighten your hair, which is horrible for you. You have to like risk your health to get to look a way that the white man approves, essentially, to get a job. And people say systemic racism isn't real. Guess what professional was created as was between the 30s and 50s, whenever only white men could work in the office place. There was no women besides secretaries, and there was no people of color in them office spaces when them rules of what was professional. Which seems obvious, like people know that. That's why I don't give people that pass. People know that. That's too obvious to ignore. Like, and that's what you're doing. You're ignoring it if you don't realize that. Who does my dreads? So my mom, Vinny Rossetti, started them, did them for years and years back in Oklahoma. But since I've been in San Jose, Strictly Braids over on Bascom. She does good stuff, and she can work on mixed people's dreads too, obviously for me. And she does this. I was talking about root. So once you do the crochet needle on your to get them to lock, do interlocking on the roots. That's what they do over for me at Strictly Braids. It's way faster, and it doesn't hurt nearly as much, and it's just way more efficient. It looks neater. It's dope. The next thing I was going to talk about on dreads kind of requires a little bit of flushing out is like there's like kind of like here in the United States, there's kind of like different regions kind of like either have different styles of dreads, or the dreads kind of take on a different meaning in a way. And I'm going to get into that, what I mean by that. Just things that I've learned, just being to the places I've been, and just from culture and from music, and just from what I've learned. Like different parts of the country, kind of dreads mean different things, and like I said, so like when I first moved to the Bay, like people would see my dreads and say shit like "get hyphy" or "shake them dreads," and I'll be real, I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. I was like I don't know. I thought it was so weird, bizarre, awkward. Like what are they talking about? Like I don't feel like shaking my dreads right now, but like that's what everybody, like the first words out of their mouth when they met me in the Bay, like if I was at a bar or something, like, oh yeah, I bet he likes to get hyphy and shake them dreads, but I didn't even know that's what dreads were associated in Bay Area culture with, was like like that hyphy movement, people shaking their dreads, like all that shit from like the mid 2000s, like and people still fuck with it, but that's like when that shit was like mainly going on, and like they would do like big car shows and do donuts, and I mean pretty much like all them E40 videos used to be and so like that, and so that was my first kind of made me re-examine, like damn, yeah, like dreads mean different things, like depending on where you're at. Like, you know what I mean? Like out here, people might associate them with, like, you might like to do a lot of Molly and then go to car shows and shit like that, which doesn't really describe me at all. And then like in the Midwest, I guess I can break Midwest into like two kind of separate parts, because like the Southern Midwest, like where I'm from, like Oklahoma, if you're a young black kid with dreads, or a mixed kid for the most part, like people are pretty much just gonna assume you're a football player. Like that's like associated with football culture, because like that's the main. Like if you see a young black kid with dreads, like chances are he's probably a football player or an athlete or something like that. Like that's what it's associated with in that part of the country. Like, and I can speak on that because that's where I'm from. Like Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas. Probably I don't know that much about Kansas, but in kind of that region, it's kind of associated with sports, athletics, and then but like up north Midwest, like Chicago, it takes on like a whole new meaning, and it's like part of like that gang banging like murder culture, like them Chief Keef style dreads, like and so like just yeah, like different regions like kind of can symbolize different things, and and it's not always concrete, but just kind of a general vibe, different general culture of like what the dreads symbolize in different places, or can symbolize in different places, and then like in Florida, they do all types of crazy shit with the dreads, like the Haitian dreads, like the them fat Kodak Black dreads, like or like the Cam Newton kind of looking crazy shit, or like the like gunplay, for those who know gunplay is ratchet asses. Like, yeah, the big fat, like, just, like, there's, like, dreads that are, like, this fat. Like, I have pretty fat dreads, but, like, down there in Florida, I forget what they call them shits. Like, I don't even know. I don't even know. It's dope. I'm not clowning on it. I think it's dope that they have something that, like, represents their culture and their people and their region and their heritage of being Haitian. I fuck with that. I really do. But it's wild looking though. It's really wild looking. Like you watch like some dudes like Miami, like Lonnie Walker, the basketball player that came from Miami. He plays for the Spurs now. He had some crazy shit. Which he ended up having like a sad story behind that, but it still was like he's from Florida. Like that Florida shit, they be getting these crazy thick, like tribal looking dreads. It's cool. Like it really is cool. It seems like it would be uncomfortable, but I guess as long as you rip that shit to the root, it wouldn't be. But especially in that Florida heat. But shit, I had these long dreads in Oklahoma heat, so I feel them. You gotta sometimes pay the price, pay the cost. You know what I mean? But yeah, so Florida, and then for example, like when I'm in like San Jose or like, Oakland or San Francisco, they be on that high feet E40 type dread type shit. But then like you go south, you go over the hill, as they say, to Santa Cruz, or like you on like a beach town. And then like people over there probably think that I'm like in a band that sounds like Revolution or fucking Iration or some shit like that. Cause like that's the vibe there, or like, when I'm up in the mountains, they probably think that I'm like just like some like mountain like weed grower or something, So it's like different places, dreads can kind of symbolize different things, and like it's cool. I've kind of let all that factor in. Like to be honest, like not the Florida or Chicago part because I've never been there, but like I mean like the athlete part, the reggae part, the rapper part, the beach hippie fucking weed growing part, I'll be real, that kind of all sums up my dreads in a way. It's kind of a little bit of all that, just to be honest with you. But yeah, I definitely kind of want to take a deep dive into like the regional meanings of like dreads and like what they mean, and to kind of to different people. And then I put out on social media, yesterday, if anybody like had any kind of dreadlock related questions that they wanted me to address, and I actually got two, so I'm gonna address them. So shout out, thanks for the engagement. And these are also questions that I get asked a lot too, so I'm actually glad they kind of brought that to the front of my memory. Shout out to Angie Clark, big supporter of the show, and appreciate the support. I really do. So a question I get asked a lot: how do I wash my hair? The best way I describe it, so like when it's different if you have short dreads and long dreads. Like when your dreads are as long as mine, you kind of got to separate it into two different things. You gotta wash the scalp separately. You wash your scalp essentially like you would wash your scalp if you didn't have dreads, quite honestly. You probably need a lot more shampoo than you would if you didn't have dreads, but you pretty much wash your scalp the same as you would wash your scalp. But then you got to wash the length of it separately. That's kind of the difference about washing dreads. And when you're washing the length of it, it's going to sound kind of funny, but it's almost like you're hand washing a hoodie or a t-shirt or something. You're just getting the soap like in it and working it and twisting it and wringing it out. And it's like you're hand washing a piece of clothing. That's the best way I can describe it. And then washing your scalp should be really no different than washing your scalp without dreads. I usually don't like to wash my scalp too close after getting retwisted or getting my roots done, because it'll pretty much make it look fuzzy again. It'll kind of ruin the crispiness. So I usually try to wait a little while after getting my hair done. But then once your roots look fuzzy, you can wash that shit as much as you want, really. As long as you're letting it dry all the way. That's the biggest obstacle to washing your dreads. People think it's how to wash it or what shampoo and all that. The biggest thing you're going to do to fuck your dreads up by washing them is if you don't let them dry all the way, which can be hard. Like this, it takes forever to dry. Like I really like to wash my hair in the morning and then go outside for a couple hours on like a sunny day. Like that's the best way to do it. Like trying to use blow dryers or towels, that shit's going to stay damp. And I've had it happen. It sounds gross, but I'm not ashamed to admit it. Y'all can learn from me. Like if you don't let your dreads dry all the way, it's the same thing. What if you wash a hoodie and don't let it dry all the way? That shit gets like a smell to it. That shit is whack. So like everybody thinks that like it's hard to wash your dreads or how often should I do it. Really, the main thing, just make sure them motherfuckers get all the way dry, like all the way dry. And there's no better way to do it than to sun dry. So that's the main question people ask me. How do I wash my dreads? How should I wash my dreads? I read a bunch of shit online about using these like super all natural shampoos and all that. I think that's just people trying to sell you shit. I've had my dreads for 10 years. I've been using normal shampoo. I said, make sure you rinse that shit all the way out, because all these people, non-residue. That's what you'll see on all these dread shampoos. But if you just rinse out all the shampoo, I don't be having residue. But I don't know. Everybody's hair is different. But like I said, my main key to success is just making sure you wash your scalp and hair separately, and then make sure the motherfuckers get all the way dry. Like and try to sun dry them if you can. It's the best way. Trust me. Just go for a walk. Something. It dries so much faster in the sun. It's insane. Then the next thing, everybody always asks me, like, how do I not fuck up my roots when I'm sleeping? Do I use a silk pillowcase? Do I use a silk head scarf? I mean, man, I guess I'm probably the wrong person to ask about that. You saw my last Dreadful Talk. That's my answer. I was wearing that blue do-rag. Get you a do. I don't care if you think it looks hood or ratchet or whatever. It's just a do-rag. And trust me, I've tried a lot of things and nothing works better to me than just the old school do-rag. But don't get like the super, super cheap one that you get at like Sally's, like the black, the super thin one. Order you some like nice, like kind of like satin or silk ones off of like online somewhere. Like, I got some off Amazon. They work great for me. But man, I know it's kind of funny. Do-rags ain't in style like they used to be, but that's why I still be rocking mine. It keeps it looking, it really does help it keep looking nice. So ain't no magic secret. Just humble yourself and go and get you that dude. Yeah. And, but yeah, you know what? I'm going to end it on that ratchet note because I like the energy. I like how that felt right there. Get you a nice, get you that do-way. And then, we're going to keep it pushing, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. That wraps up episode 11 of Dreadful Talk. Subscribe on YouTube to Dreadful Talk and Beefy Boys Breakdown. Support your boy. Love y'all. Take it easy.